October 22nd, 1971, CBS Television City, Hollywood. The Doris Day Show was in the middle of filming a complex kitchen scene for the upcoming episode when Doris noticed something through the studio window that made her stop mid-sentence and walk directly off the set, leaving the entire cast and crew wondering what could be more important than their tight filming schedule. Standing just outside Studio 4, pressing her face against the glass with wonder in her eyes despite her obvious illness, was 6-year-old Emma Chen, whose dream of meeting Doris Day had brought her family across the country during what doctors had told them might be her final months of life. What happened next would become one of the most powerful demonstrations of genuine compassion in television history, as America's sweetheart proved that some moments are more important than any TV show, and that real stars know when to stop acting and start living the values they represent on screen. Emma Chen had been diagnosed with leukemia 8 months earlier. Despite aggressive treatment at Children's Hospital in San Francisco, her condition had continued to worsen, and her doctors had recently told her parents that they should prepare for the possibility that conventional treatments might not be enough. "Emma was the bravest little girl I've ever known," recalled her mother Linda Chen years later. Even when she was feeling terrible from chemotherapy, she would watch the Doris Day shows every Monday night and sing along to the theme song. Emma's love for Doris Day had become her primary source of joy during the most difficult period of her young life. She had memorized every episode, owned every album, and told everyone at the hospital that Doris Day was her best friend, even though they had never met. When Emma was having a particularly bad day, we would put on Doris Day music and she would perk up immediately, remembered her father David Chen. Doris represented hope and happiness to Emma when both seemed impossible to find. As Emma's condition worsened, her parents had made the difficult decision to bring her to Los Angeles, hoping that experimental treatment at UCLA Medical Center might offer options that weren't available in San Francisco. "We knew it was probably our last chance," Linda recalled. But Emma had one request. She wanted to see where they filmed the Doris Day shows before she started the new treatment. The Chen family had arrived at CBS Television City that morning, not expecting to meet Doris but simply hoping Emma could see the studio where her favorite show was made. "The security guard was incredibly kind," David remembered. "When he saw how sick Emma was and learned about her love for Miss Day, he allowed us to look through the studio window during filming." Emma had been watching the filming with fascination despite feeling weak from her recent chemotherapy session when Doris glanced toward the window and saw a small face pressed against the glass. "I saw this little girl watching us, and something about her expression caught my attention," Doris recalled in a later interview. "She looked so hopeful but also so fragile. I had to find out who she was." Without explaining to the director, the other actors, or the crew what she was doing, Doris walked directly off the set and out of the studio to meet Emma and her family. "Miss Day just appeared in front of us like an angel," Linda remembered. Emma couldn't believe that her idol was actually standing right there. "Hello, sweetheart," Doris said softly, kneeling down to Emma's eye level. "I'm Doris. I saw you watching us film and I wanted to meet you. What's your name?" Emma, overwhelmed by meeting her hero while feeling sick from treatment, could barely whisper her response. "Emma Chen. I love your show so much, Miss Day." "Well, Emma, would you like to come inside and see how we make the show? I think you might enjoy being part of our television family for the day." What Doris did next would amaze everyone on the set. Instead of simply giving Emma a quick tour and returning to filming, Doris made a decision that would halt production and change the direction of the entire day. "Ladies and gentlemen," Doris announced to the cast and crew when she brought Emma into Studio 4, "I'd like you to meet Emma Chen, who is going to be our special consultant today. Emma knows more about our show than anyone else in this room." The production team, initially concerned about the schedule disruption, quickly understood that they were witnessing something more important than any television episode. "Miss Day introduced Emma to every single person on the set," recalled director Denver Pyle. "She treated this sick little girl like the most important visitor we'd ever had." But Doris's support for Emma went far beyond just showing her around the set. "Emma," Doris said, settling the little girl in her own chair next to the director's seat, "I have a very important job for you. I need someone to help me make sure this episode is the best one we've ever filmed. Can you be my assistant director for the next 4 hours While the expensive television production schedule was completely abandoned, Doris Day turned the filming of the Doris Day Show into a private performance for one very sick little girl. Miss Day asked Emma's opinion about every scene, every line delivery, every costume choice, remembered co-star Rose Marie. She made this child feel like her input was genuinely valuable and necessary. Emma sat mesmerized as Doris performed scenes specifically for her, often multiple times with different approaches, always asking for Emma's feedback and treating her suggestions seriously. "Which version did you like better, Emma?" Doris would ask after each take. "Should I be happier in this scene? Do you think the kitchen looks right? What would make this funnier?" Emma's face was absolutely glowing, Linda recalled. For the first time since her diagnosis, she looked like a normal, happy child instead of a patient fighting for her life. But the most magical moment came when Doris asked Emma if she would like to appear in the episode they were filming. "Really?" Emma whispered. "I could be on the Doris Day Show, really?" Doris replied, "I think our show needs someone exactly like you." The scene that followed would become legendary among everyone who witnessed it. Doris rewrote a segment of the script to include Emma as a young neighbor visiting the kitchen, and for 20 minutes, Emma Chen performed alongside her idol in what would become her television debut. Emma was a natural, recalled script supervisor Alice Johnson. She delivered her lines with such joy and authenticity that everyone on the set was crying. When filming wrapped that evening, Doris had one more surprise for Emma. "Emma, you did such wonderful work today that I want to give you something special," Doris said, presenting the little girl with the script from that day's filming, signed by the entire cast and crew. "This script proves that you're now part of the Doris Day Show's family forever," Doris told her. "But more importantly, you've shown all of us what courage and joy look like, even when things are difficult." However, Doris's support for Emma and her family extended far beyond that magical day at the studio. Over the following weeks, while Emma underwent experimental treatment at UCR, Doris maintained regular contact with the family, visiting the hospital, sending care packages, and ensuring that Emma had reasons to smile during her most challenging days. Miss Day visited Emma at least once a week, Linda remembered. She would bring books, music, and most importantly, hope. But perhaps most significantly, Doris used her Hollywood connections to ensure that Emma received the best possible medical care. Miss Day contacted doctors she knew, arranged consultations with specialists, and even helped coordinate Emma's treatment plan, David recalled. "She turned her celebrity into a resource for saving our daughter's life." The experimental treatment, combined with the emotional support and hope that Doris had provided, began to show remarkable results. Emma's condition improved steadily over the following months, and within a year, she was in complete remission. The doctors said that Emma's positive attitude and will to fight had played a crucial role in her recovery, Linda reflected. And that positive attitude came directly from knowing that Doris Day believed in her and cared about her future. The episode featuring Emma aired 6 months later, becoming one of the most beloved in the show's history. Viewers wrote thousands of letters expressing their love for the brave little girl who had appeared alongside their favorite star. Emma's episode generated more positive fan mail than any other show we produced, recalled executive producer Terry Melcher. People were inspired by her courage, and by Miss Day's obvious affection for her. But the most lasting impact was on Emma herself, who grew up understanding that there are people in the world willing to stop everything to help someone who needs help. Inspired by Doris's example, and her own experience as a patient, Emma eventually became a pediatric nurse, dedicating her career to caring for sick children. "Miss Day taught me that the most important thing you can do is make someone feel valued and loved when they're scared and alone," Emma reflected years later. "Every day at work, I try to be for other children what she was for me." The story of what happened on Studio 4 that day became legendary throughout the television industry, inspiring other stars to remember that their most important audience might be just one person who desperately needs to feel special. The Emma Chen story changed how a lot of performers thought about their responsibility to their fans, recalled former CBS executive Fred Silverman. In 1995, 24 years after her television debut, Dr. Emma Chen was honored at a pediatric oncology fundraising gala. When she was asked to speak about her inspiration for becoming a children's cancer specialist, her response brought the audience to tears. "When I was 6 years old and fighting for my life, Doris Day stopped filming her television show just to make me feel important. She taught me that real success means using whatever influence you have to lift up people who need lifting up. She didn't just save my life by helping me get better medical treatment. She saved my soul by showing me that I mattered to someone whose opinion mattered more than anything in the world to a scared little girl." When Doris learned about Emma's career and the speech she had given, she sent a note that read, "To my favorite assistant director, I always knew you had the perfect instincts for helping people. The children you care for are lucky to have someone who understands exactly what they need most." The episode of The Doris Day Show featuring Emma Chen still airs in reruns, a permanent reminder of the day when authentic compassion met professional television production, and proved that some interruptions create the most meaningful moments of all. "That episode represents everything that was best about Miss Day," observed television historian Tim Brooks. "It shows that real stars don't just perform characters with heart, they actually have hearts that guide their actions when the cameras are rolling and when they're not." October 22, 1971. A television production was interrupted by the sight of a sick child watching through a window. 4 hours later, that child had become a television star. Her family had found new hope, and a legend had proven that the most important performances happen when you stop performing and start caring. Emma Chen learned that day that there are people in the world who understand that some things are more important than schedules, contracts, or professional obligations. More important than anything except kindness to someone who needs kindness more than they need anything else. Doris Day learned what she had always known but rarely had the chance to prove so dramatically, that the most valuable use of fame is using it to create hope for people who have lost hope, especially when those people are children fighting battles that no child should have to fight. Everyone else at CBS Television City learned what it looks like when genuine compassion meets professional success. It looks like Doris Day stopping everything to make sure a sick child understands that her life matters, her courage inspires others, and her dreams are worth protecting even when especially when those dreams seem impossible. Some television episodes entertain audiences for 30 minutes, others change lives forever. The episode that Doris Day and Emma Chen created together did both, proving that the most powerful television happens when real life becomes more compelling than any script, and when real love becomes more important than any performance. The show that stopped for Emma Chen became a show about what really matters when someone's life depends on feeling like they matter to someone who has the power to make them feel important. In a world where feeling important can literally be the difference between giving up and fighting on, Doris Day made sure Emma Chen felt more important than any television show, any schedule, or any professional obligation could ever be. That's what October 22, 1971 was really about. Not the episode they planned to film, but the episode they ended up creating about courage, hope, and the kind of love that stops production schedules, because some moments are worth more than anything money can buy. Like the moment when a scared little girl learns that her hero actually is heroic, not just on television but in real life when real life requires real heroism. Emma Chen got to meet her hero and discover that heroes actually exist, especially when you need them most, and when meeting them might mean the difference between hope and despair. Doris Day got to be the hero she had always wanted to be for someone who needed exactly that kind of hero at exactly the right moment, and everyone else got to witness what heroism looks like when it's not scripted, not performed, but simply lived by someone who understands that being famous for kindness is the only kind of fame worth having. The television show continued for 2 more seasons, but October 22, 1971 remained the day it became more than entertainment. It became a reminder that some stories are too important to be fiction, and some stars shine brightest when they stop acting and start being exactly who their audiences always hoped they were: real, caring, and willing to stop everything for someone who needs everything stopped just for them. Like Emma Chen needed it stopped, and like Doris Day made sure it was stopped, for all the right reasons on exactly the right day for exactly the right person.